Hello, I'm Yael Weinstein from the Jewish Federation of Greater Orlando, and I'm here today to talk to you about your Zoom settings and how to help with Zoom bombing, a phenomenon that has come up where people who are anti-Semitic, hate groups, or just interested in causing havoc come into your room and share anti-Semitica or also use porn or anything to disrupt your meeting. So how do you prevent that is twofold. One is before the meeting, the settings that you go into for Zoom.us, and one is through the meeting controls itself. And so right now I'm going to be sharing with you how to go into Zoom.us. And then what you can do is go to our second video to learn about what do you do to manage the meeting itself from when you are in your Zoom meeting. So we're in Zoom.us from our web portal. So you basically go into the internet to any browser that you use. I'm in Edge right now. And you type in Zoom.us, sign into your account, and then choose settings right here. Settings will then create or take you to this particular menu options, and we're basically going to be going down these settings to determine what settings you need in order to make your meetings the most safe environment possible. So what I would recommend is scroll down, and the first one you want to look at is this one, which is join before host. You want to disable that. You do not want anybody to be able to come into your meeting unless you are there. It's kind of like having a front door where people have to knock in order to come in. So go ahead and turn that off. And to turn that off, you want it to look gray like that rather than blue like this. Then you want to go down to the next one, which is use personal ID, PMI, when scheduling a meeting. You want that off. Your PMI is like your telephone number, and you want that to be secure and only given to those that you really want to have it. You don't want to use that for your other meetings. You want to see your meetings generated IDs as something unique to each meeting so that it becomes harder for Zoom bombers to come into your meetings. So then you want to scroll down here, and you want to put in that only authenticated users can join meetings from the web client. Go ahead and click that. And then the next one you want to do is require a password when scheduling new meetings. A password is one extra security measure that you can implement, that people need the password so they don't just need to have your meeting ID, that they can't just guess a meeting ID and enter, but they also have to have your password to get in. Require a password for instant meetings is also a really good idea. Random password will be generated. To go back to passwords, you can create a password that's not random. It is safer if you use a random password, but if you're interested in having a set password that's easier for your clients, you can go ahead, or your participants or your members, you can go ahead and do that as well. I would recommend that if you do use your PMI ever, that you require a password as well. That way people can't just come into your PMI when you're not there. You do have the choice to embed passwords in a meeting link for one-click join. This is if you have a link that you've already invited out, you can set it up this way. You can do this or not do this. It depends on how secure you want to be. If you want to be more secure, it's actually better to disable this feature. But if you want to be more secure, but it's really up to you what makes the most sense. Require password for participants joining by phone. I would recommend this because even though you can't visibly see the people, you still want to lock them down so that it's more secure via phone, because people can create a lot of damage emotionally through verbiage as well, right? And scare people and everything through very violent rhetoric. In terms of muting participants upon entry, that's really up to you. It would be an extra security measure, but it's not necessary all the time. So then you go down to in-meeting basics, and we get into the chat conversations. And I would say allow meeting participants to send a message visible to all participants. I would enable that. The reason I would enable that is you can disable and have more flexibility within your meeting itself, and we'll explain how you can do that. So it's a really good idea to enable it, and that way you can be flexible and make the decision at your meeting. Prevent participants from saving chat. That is definitely what you want to do. You want to stop it from being able to save so people can't use the chats later. You can allow meeting participants to send one-on-one chats to another participant. I would leave that on because you have the ability to go into each meeting and set that up differently, and that gives you, again, more flexibility. Do not auto-save chats. Go ahead and turn that off. And then go ahead also and turn off the file transfer so people cannot upload videos, they can't upload anti-Semitic files. So just go ahead and turn off that file transfer. The other thing you need to do is actually enable co-host. Enabling a co-host will help you manage your participants better during the meeting. So you want to have that on. If you do not enable co-host beforehand, you're not going to be able to set up a co-host in each of your meetings. Okay. Screen share is an interesting conversation. There are people saying that you should recommend only the host be able to share the screen during meeting. I actually like to choose the all participants can, because in the meeting settings itself, for each particular meeting, you can shut down screen share, and that way you have flexibility that if you're in a meeting with people who need to share their screen, like a board meeting or something, you have the ability to turn that off later in the meeting, but you don't shut it down completely in case you need that flexibility. You want to disable desktop screen share for users. Annotation is another one where it's being recommended by some groups to disable this function of allowing participants to use annotation tools to add information to shared screen. I leave that on because I like having the ability to allow my participants to annotate or not annotate. And in the meeting settings, I can disable that at any point. So I have the ability to control it the way I want to control it by leaving it enabled. If you disable it, even you as the host would not be able to use the annotate function. So I really like the annotate function, so I recommend using that later. I do not autosave any whiteboard content, so just have that off. In terms of during screen sharing, the person who's sharing can allow others to control the shared content for remote control. Go ahead and turn that off as well. The next setting that a lot of people are discussing, and which is really up to you, is allow remote participants to rejoin. There's arguments to both. So on one hand, if you have a Zoom bomber, you don't want them to rejoin, and if this is off, they won't be able to rejoin. However, if you accidentally kick somebody out of your meeting, that person won't be able to rejoin either. And so the question is whether that is a good setting or not, and you're going to have to determine what makes most sense for your meeting. So the next one we're going down to is farther down here, and that is our waiting room, and this is the last one we're discussing. Definitely go ahead and turn on the waiting room. It's like having a doorbell and they have to wait until you open the door for them. And I would do it for all participants, and that way you have the control of letting people in. You have the control throughout the entire meeting to let people in, so if you do have a Zoom bomber, you don't have to readmit them. And this is a really great setting. And of course, what we're going to do next in our following video is to go on to what are the settings to have during the meetings itself to protect from Zoom bombing.